Welcome, reanimated fans, to this week's episode. I'm H.A. Conrad here in Brooklyn. And as always, my intrepid co-host is joining us from the West Coast. Hello, Stuart, Tiffin.
Greetings, H.A. Hello, how are you?
I'm awesome. Have a few things to talk about today. A couple little news items before we start talking about a recap. And this is a little bit of a spoiler. But, you know, we are kind of not feeling it for this Fear the Walking Dead season. And so I think we might just speed things up a little bit. But today we are going to talk about Cindy Hawkins and Breathe With Me. And then, we'll get into that. But to kick off the news items.
Wait, can we just back up to, we're going to speed up Fear the Walking Dead? Because in a way, when I hear you say that, part of me should be relieved. But the other part of me is like, well, that means I have to watch more of it at once. It's like
I don't know. It's a punishment, but then our listeners only have to hear like sort of a more compressed summary. And I feel like I just feel like I can't, it's like a slog to go through it. So yeah. It makes me just want to get through it. So I feel like for me, this is better, but maybe not for you. I don't know.
Oh yeah. It'll be better in the long run. It's just, I got to take my medicine. Okay. But you were about to say.
So I was about to say, we saw a trailer for Virus 32, which is a Uruguayan zombie film. It's going to be released on Shudder on April 21st. We were both saying that this dialect of Spanish, or this, like, it's a different sounding Spanish. I have not heard a ton of Uruguayan Spanish, so that makes sense, but it looks kind of good. So I don't know, we could review that later, but maybe we should take a look at it before we agree to do that. And then there is.
Well, I would like to just say, the production value in this trailer looks really good.
Yeah.
Very atmospheric, and I'm excited to take a look at this film when it's out there. Yeah. Yeah,
and I mean the director has done a couple of things, and I think that, like, we should say it's Gustavo Hernandez, and he's done a few different things, and then this has been finished for a while. So, I think it had been, they'd been shopping it around. So they just bought it. And so that's going to be available US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, UK on Shudder. And so, I think it's exciting to see it, but apparently it's been sort of making the rounds in the European film market, whatever this is, and so that it got some play, and so I'm excited to see it. I think it looks pretty good, and we'll have to maybe do a review of this.
I did think it was pretty funny when I saw this, like the subhead that it's going to debut on Shudder, and I think I canceled my Shudder account like last week. Of course, they just hadn't been putting out anything that was zombies for so long, or that felt that way to me. So I was just like, I'm not getting my money's worth. I'm not watching it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You can like re-up this stuff when you need to, which is kind of what I do. I cancel it and re-up it all the time. And that's the thing about all of those subscriptions. You kind of have to do that. So at least that's what I find. So anyway, we'll take a look at that and maybe circle back later. And then you found this trailer for Wormwood, which I had not, honestly, I don't know that I focused on this as much.
Yeah, Wormwood is now it's like a franchise that we have not even touched. It's Australian zombies. Their approach to special effects and makeup has always been a little edgier than some of the stuff that we usually look at. A little more like, well, weirdly Mad Maxy feeling, it's like Mad Max and zombies. I mean, I wonder why.
There you go. I mean, come on.
And so there's another Wormwood movie coming out, and Bloody Disgusting has a link to a trailer, or a YouTube trailer that we'll put in our show notes too. And I'm sure it'll be fun. It's just we haven't gone there, and now we need to.
Yeah, and another reason to speed up our reviews of Fear the Walking Dead. And then you did some sleuthing and found this little tidbit, which I'm excited about, because honestly, I just really enjoy this franchise a lot, so much.
Well, I would temper your enthusiastic response to this, because if you Google when is Black Summer season 3 coming out, and like those, so there's a lot of websites that like try to keep tabs on what shows are coming, and some of them are pure clickbait. and just regurgitate things that other people have actually reported.
Mm,
But there's nothing really out there. And as far as I saw an article that did say that as of early March, Netflix had not renewed the show, and Jamie
mm,
King had been cast in another project, a movie though, not a show. And so when I saw this 4 days ago, I think, on the Black Summer official Instagram account, um, they post some weird stuff. It's like a lot of right now. It's a lot of they post like a couple times a week, and it's a lot of production behind the scenes stuff or like makeup effects shots. In this case, it was a clip from the beginning of season 2 where Lance is siphoning gas out of that car,
mm.
and and then people are commenting like, "Oh, yeah, we love Lance. Bring back Lance in season 3." Spoiler alert: he's dead. He can't come back. But
Yeah.
Kelsey Flower did comment on one of those one of those and said, "I don't know who you are, but I like your style." But so somebody else posts here season 3 updates question mark question mark question mark, and Black Summer official responds, "Hey, it's coming."
Yeah.
And so that to me is, I don't know, that's like a 75% confirmed season 3 is
Well,
coming.
honestly, I would like to see a sun-focused Black Summer.
Mm.
I would like to see a continuation of what's going on with Sun now that she's been like kind of that she was the lone survivor. Though I feel like that what they were teeing up was something maybe a little bit different. I don't think they actually like. I hate to say it, but Jamie Lee King's character seemed kind of done for, so I can't imagine that would be part of it. But
Well, no,
um,
she and what's his name were doing that lying down standoff.
right, but they're both so damaged. I mean,
They
she's
are.
pretty but much done, in my
Neither of
opinion.
them were shot though, right? They were just beat up, I think.
I don't know. She got kind of blown up a little
Oh,
bit.
didn't she have a
So
compound fracture? Yeah.
yeah, so I don't see her making it out of that, but her daughter could, and I think it would probably follow the daughter's character, or I don't know. But I want to kind of see what happens with Sun. I love her as a character, and it was really kind of gratifying to see that she's the one that made it out. But um so anyway, we'll have to see. I'm a little bit hopeful because I feel like they wouldn't have just put that in there. I think that would be too mean too mean if they were just teeing everybody up like teasing people like that, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's definite chance that this is just a social media manager getting out in front of their skis a little bit too much when there's nothing else out there that seems official. But
yep.
maybe they're privy to conversations that and they're just getting a little bit ahead of the official announcement. But you know what, season 2, remember like oh dude, what's Shaun of the Dead guy? What's his name? Simon Pegg. He did
Yep.
that. He did that really heartfelt review after binging it right after season 2 came
Yep.
out. I feel like he got such a swell of
Mhm.
certainly audience and fan reactions that they'd be crazy not to do it. It was in the top 10 on Netflix for a
Yeah.
spell.
But I mean, look, to be honest, though, I mean, this is a lot involved in doing a show like this. I mean, we commented many times just about the choreography, the cast,
All
and
those
just
oneers, yeah, all those
all those
tracking
wonders
shots.
were just insane. So I do think it takes a bit to coordinate that, but I'm definitely on board if they want to do something. So we'll have to see what's happening with that. Um, but and stay tuned. Hopefully, maybe you can do some more sleuthing and just instant message that guy and just say, hey, get some more dirt, Stuart. Come on.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I know like I both want to get into this and don't. I have very mixed feelings about it, but I do think we have to start talking about Fear the Walking Dead. Um, so as I sort of gave like the highlights, or I don't even know if I did or not, some spoilery about how I feel. I don't think it's a mystery. I don't think anybody would be surprised, but we are talking about Fear the Walking Dead. The 2 episodes that were reviewing today is Cindy Hawkins and Breathe with Me. One I was felt a little bit better about than the other, though I still had some problems. Um,
Wait,
and
which one did you prefer? Cindy Hawkins?
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, this is actually exactly a little bit of what we were talking about, that they missed out on an opportunity for the shelter, like that Alicia's in to some extent. It's a
Oh,
little bit of a, how
a very compressed version of what her
right,
experience would
right,
have been. And
right,
she's in
but
like a bunker complex and they're just in 2 school buses, or is it
right,
even just
right.
one?
I don't even know, but I mean, they're in their underground bunker, and it's,
I mean, yes, I agree that like there was some interesting stuff here, but when the first, it feels like half of the episode, but it's probably just the first eighth, is like a montage of bunker living, and I'm just like, yeah, Lost did this. It was interesting and novel
I
at
was
that
just
time.
about to say, and Lost did it with the music
With
and like
the
all,
bike,
yeah, it
it was
was
extremely Lost.
very,
It was
very
showing that
Lost.
repetition. It was set to music, and I was just like, yeah, this is extremely derivative. It's nice. I mean, I want to see June and Senior getting along in their bunker. I guess maybe this is the only way you could come up with to do that, but it's extremely derivative.
Yeah, and well, anyway, but let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. So we've got June, we've got Senior in this bunker. They're doing their thing. They've got their little countdown, which apparently June has come up with, and they sort of show a little bit of that. But it doesn't take them very long for them to start, as you would imagine. Both of them to start losing it a little bit. John Dory Sr. is, um, you know, I called this even when they were drinking their little thing. I'm like, oh, isn't that dude an alcoholic? like, and that he was indeed sneaking, his hooch here and there.
Do you remember that being covered previously in the story?
No, it just kind of felt like he was. I think that they kind of hinted at it. John Dory Jr. had mentioned something about it, and that it was a way that he was coping with some of the things that he had seen in the serial murderer and letting him get away and that kind of thing. But I would say at least in this, they actually talk about the fallout radiation in a more concrete way. At least you kind of think they are. And but again, the way that this show is treating the fallout and how truly honestly unlivable I think it would be outside, it's just a little, they kind of switch things around and make things very convenient, like everything's super dangerous until it's not, right?
Yeah.
And then like let's and then also just, and this is just my own I don't know. I don't necessarily feel like Teddy's bunker is going to be the best constructed shelter, and it doesn't seem to be, clearly.
Yeah.
It's just basically a bus buried in dirt.
Maybe that's
I
a
don't know.
nod to the Branch Davidians, because they had a school bus buried in their compound too. I think maybe that's kind of the nod there. I thought it was decent for what it was. I don't know how Teddy, this guy, in the 70s, was able to do this necessarily by
Right.
himself.
Right.
At least David Koresh had like a dozens of people to help him bury school buses, but they're trying to put Teddy on the same level as a guy who actually had charisma and pull. But
Well, yeah, and I mean, I guess they're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but this would still like have been a pretty big project, right? So even if he had people helping, to me, it's kind of unlikely that no one would have known that this was going on or happening. And again, maybe it is super desolate out there, and maybe that makes sense. I don't know, but all I could think was that's what I was having. I know this is just me being myself, but imagining this kind of a project happening, because it isn't, and you would think that he can't have people helping him because he's a serial murderer. And I don't know, maybe he murdered the people that helped him with it, but this is also, in addition to being Teddy's sort of fallout bunker, this is the place where he was committing a lot of the atrocities that John Dory Sr. was trying to track him for. So you would imagine that secrecy would have been the thing for this kind of a project. So then it's like, well, then how did he do it? It just felt very, I couldn't get over that part. but and he's down there and operating here. And I mean, as a hideaway and as a secret place to do these evil things, I guess it makes sense. And it does, like, not visible to the road and not visible to anything. And he's got this whole thing happening, but it doesn't feel like he would have been able to pull this off by himself, and certainly not pull off something that is going to be able to survive some kind of fallout from warheads. Right. So I don't know. It just, that kind of stuff I just kept getting stuck on, in addition to what you just commented on, which is that the derivative from laws, like just that it was almost exactly like that. It was just kind
Yeah.
of weird.
Well,
So I thought that that was a strange way to go.
it's to me, it's just nonstop. The writing on the show, it doesn't have good consistency, and it doesn't really have much originality. Or when they do get original, there's just not a lot there really to dig your teeth into. To me, it was the weird stuff about this episode where they kept going to sleep with like their oil lamps still lit.
Yeah, I thought that was odd too. I
Like
was
why
like, why would you do that? And also, oil lamps in this small space is
you're
going to
gonna
give off a lot of like smoke, a lot of like, you know what I mean? Like, I
yeah.
think you'd probably kill yourselves
Well,
with.
they must have had some sort of vent, and I think they looked at it. There was the shot of something in the ceiling when those
Mm.
guys started digging through. And when John eventually goes upstairs, I am reminded that I'm really not enjoying, and this is about these 4 episodes that we've seen so far. All these sets that they're on, it reminds me of Star Trek.
Yes, yes. I
Bad
was
Star
actually
Trek.
going to say, I had a note that these sets are really rough. I don't know.
Like by the time we get to the 4th episode and we see some exterior sets again, like outside, I'm like, God, yeah, thank you, because it was so claustrophobic to be on these orange bare tree 20 by 20 foot sets all the time. And they
Yep.
even like double down on the claustrophobia with these like mask views that they do in this episode, which are like, or, close-ups of Keith Carradine's eyeballs and then reversing it to the 2 little circles you can see out of his mask. Yeah, I mean, I get it. That's what they're going for, but it's also just like not enjoyable really. When you also, if you do have like a shot from outside, like looking at his body moving around in his suit, you can tell that he's on a set, like, and it seems really
Yeah.
clearly fake.
It does, and it's also the sound of it is kind of fake. I guess that plays a little bit into this episode where, and maybe that's like they thought maybe that would be okay. I don't know, but John Dory Sr. is hallucinating a lot. There's a lot of like, he's definitely, in terms of his point of view, there's a lot that you don't know whether it's a real or not. Just because he's having delirium tremens, he's having like withdrawal from alcoholism, and like some of that stuff I thought was okay. And I mean, I guess this was a okay way to resolve some of that storyline, which is that um, this has been his driving force in terms of like what has kept him moving forward, even to the point where, into this zombie apocalypse, he's still tracking Teddy. So I guess I was okay with them resolving this storyline, which is the whole thing about Teddy's victims and who John Dory Sr. could never find. And this was sort of this is the whole thing where he had planted evidence to get Teddy convicted. And ultimately, I was okay with this part of the storyline to some extent. What I
Yeah.
wasn't okay with was just the sort of how they end up getting, out of this, and these different factions. And I don't know, it's like they're working on their suits. June's working on their suits so much, and then they're like conveniently, I don't know, as I said, they very conveniently make it either more or less dangerous depending on what their needs are. And I again, I'm bothered by the sloppiness of that. So you've got him going out into the world, multiple and then you've got the earthquake shifting and the stuff with June. And I didn't mind the slicing between reality and his hallucinations. And I think that the tension that was built there, because you're worrying about what's going to happen to June, was okay. But also the tension, because like he's hallucinating, and basically you're worried the walkers are gonna come and get him. But overall, I was just sort of like, oh God, even at the end of this, I'm like, wait, are they actually out of this bunker, or is he hallucinating again? I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, that was a decent amount of tension there. So that does add some nice drama. I was surprised that he would like consciously choose to speak to his vision, like his the thing that he knew wasn't real, his hallucination, instead of helping June when she gets knocked out by the falling beams, like he consciously makes the choice to just talk to the ghost,
Yeah.
but just because she's like, I'm dead, she's fine. I'm like, actually I think it goes the other way around. I do kind of feel like maybe the ghost of Cindy Hawkins was what caused that shelf to fall down, which is
Mm,
an interesting, because why would that shelf have fallen down? Why would that
true.
suddenly that wall have been revealed?
Right.
Which takes us into another kind of show, but it was kind of interesting.
Yep.
And otherwise, like this is was a fine episode. By the time they wake up, in it was a little silly. I will say the way they resolved this episode, they wake up in Strand's tower, and John and Senior is like, "Oh, I don't like you. You tried to kill Morgan," and Strand is like, "Yeah, whatever." Because they and Strand had sent somebody out, I guess, to save them because they'd heard Senior on the radio, and Morgan had also heard them on the radio, and they also reintroduced walkie-talkies at the end of this episode because Morgan and Strand have
Uh,
like a
I love
rivalry.
those. I love those walkie talkies.
No, it was bad. So I did think it was a little too convenient that they're just like dug out of their bunker, which you know that was just too convenient for me. And now they're in their like matching pajamas in Strand's tower, and that's
Well,
where that
right.
is.
And let's talk about these walkie talkies and the fact that they've been broadcasting for how many days? Nobody has broadcasted back, right? And I have a thing. I mean, the thing about Morgan and Strand and the like, oh, I've heard them and I hear you, Morgan. And like, don't you think Morgan would be a little bit more circumspect in how he keeps giving away all this information about where they are and where they're going and what they're doing? Like, he knows the power of these walkie talkies and the problem with it. And they used to sort of like when they were, like they used to kind of like code things or hide things. And this goes a little bit more into the next episode, but I don't know. I was just like, why are you being so obvious? Right? Like, were you bothered at all by that? It just felt like, oh, you've just given people basically a map to find you, and you know that there's like insane people out there. I don't know.
Yeah, because there isn't like a known a bad faction on the show right now. I think maybe the writers are like, well, they don't have to hide from anybody because the key people are all gone, or like who is even possibly left alive. The fact that there is even like an unknown baddie faction out there, whoever these guys are who try to break into the bunker,
Mm,
it's a stretch. Like what,
yeah,
these guys all just had their welding masks and hazmat suits right away after the nukes went
yeah,
off.
yeah, definitely. Anyway, so anyway, this is just one of the many things that kind of is frustrating. I also don't like necessarily love we've seen the stuff that June has been going through, and they have her kind of break down, and the whole thing is that she doesn't want to leave the fallout shelter. um I was definitely bothered by this part of the storyline because, whether she feels scared or not, or upset or not because of her husband's death, there were warheads that were detonated. Like, she does have a reason for not wanting to go outside after a certain number of days. Like, that's not just made up. So I didn't like the part where John Dory Sr. is sort of being like, why did you lie to me? And that she was just kind of making up this days thing. I mean, sure, she was kind of making it up, but she also is a nurse and a medical person. So it's not like it's not like she doesn't understand what the dangers would be to go outside.
And they
But
have
they don't,
supplies,
I
and they're
mean,
in a
they have,
bunker.
right? Like, they don't have any way to fully monitor it, but like, uh, I don't know. It just felt like it was sort of like, no, John Dory Sr., you're the one being bananas here. That part just kind of drove me a little crazy. So,
Yeah.
um, anyway, and then, the whole scene here, I was kind of like, why didn't Strand just let Morgan keep digging? Because he didn't have to tell him they weren't in there, right? Like, he could have left Morgan out there just digging like a crazy person. for
And
a while.
I find it a little hard to believe that Strand was just standing by a radio waiting for
Yeah,
this
Morgan to
transmission.
talk.
In these
Um,
two episodes, Strand just kind of pops up a couple of times, and you're just like,
yeah,
okay, what? You're just always ready to respond.
yeah.
What do you actually do all day, Strand?
I mean, I like to think that he's got somebody on the radio being like, all right, anytime you hear blah blah blah, come and get me. I mean, that's the only way it could work, right?
Maybe.
It's I don't know. That was how in my head he just had a monitor on the radio or something. Um, so and then I don't
Morgan
know.
asks Strand a question in their back and forth. Or no, actually, I think maybe it was June or Dory. They're like, hey, Strand, who are the people in the gas masks? And Strand is like, well, I don't know, it wasn't me or whatever. And I'm like, isn't everybody outside wearing gas masks?
Right.
Like, why, like that's what Will said in episode 1. He's like, everybody out here is wearing masks. So I thought that was a really strange piece of dialogue that they wrote in to be like, who are the strange masked people who were outside? I'm like, yeah, dude, it's nuclear fallout. I think everybody's going to be wearing a mask.
Right. Anything else before we hop into the
No,
next?
let's go to
Okay.
Breathe With Me, which was even more troubling than
Oh, so very troubling. This is that like, look, we've talked a little bit about how there's certain characters that just kind of got like lost or sidetracked or whatever you want to and whatever you might want to say. And I do think that Sarah was one of them. But she is
she was not nearly as lost as Wendell.
Wendell, who is still lost, and I suspect probably didn't sign on or wasn't signed on because we'll get into this, but never makes an appearance, even though he's supposedly around.
I was looking at a review on Den of Geek, and they were saying that he hasn't been on the show in 16 episodes.
Yep.
Since Bury Me Next to Jasper's Leg was the last appearance. Was it Chill Mitchell? Is that his name? That was the last time he was on the show. And now all of a sudden they're like, and now Sarah is all like beside herself, got to find her brother. I mean, granted, there has just been a nuclear apocalypse. Otherwise, she'd probably be pretty confident in his, survival skills.
Yep. And they seem to be using the trick where like a character is unconscious for several days. They did it with, the last episode, and they're doing it in this episode. So maybe that's trying to tie these two together. I don't know. But in any case, just as a reminder, Sarah and the group that she is with, which is like Lucy, who else is in this group?
It's Lucy, Al, Daniel Salazar, and Charlie. And apparently Rabbi Jacob is there, but he also wasn't in this episode.
He also is not. He was like, we just see like little tidbits of him. So maybe he got signed on.
No, they said he's out patrolling, and then he does not appear in the episode. But I mean, honestly, if you were one of these actors, like, I don't know what they got paid for this one scene they were in.
Right.
But, and how about the fact that they have Sarah in like convalescing in a bed next to a sheet of plastic that zombie can just walk right through.
Right. And which is what happened. So thank goodness she woke up and dispatched it. But like,
no, somebody shot it. It wasn't
somebody
her.
shot it. But still, it was just like, come on, this doesn't seem like you guys have been doing this too long. This seems a little insane. So like, I don't know. Then suddenly she all gets a bee in her bonnet to go and find Wendell. And it's
Wes is also in this group.
Oh, that's right. Wes is in the group too.
The guy who's has not really been developed at all on this show. Just kind of shows up every so often and paints something.
And they have these special pills that keep them safe. There's a very slight reference to the fact that they were all rescued by this chopper, but it's like, better you don't know, and it's dropped. Like who rescued them? Don't you think that would be a pretty big theme? I don't know. Maybe. The better. And so this is the whole walkie piece in terms of like giving away information that I'm just like, okay.
I was okay with it because she was at least outside on a hilltop, and I could see I could see around, and it was bright, and it wasn't a crappy plastic Star Trek set.
Yeah, that was better. And then, she's doing her wandering. She keeps broadcasting to Morgan. And Morgan eventually, or she's broadcasting to Wendell, but Morgan is the one who eventually responds. And indeed, somebody does find her because of her location, and it's dun, 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 the identical twin brother who we saw very briefly in the other episode. but it's him and Rufus. And there is this odd deal that they strike. Like he's just like, help me find Morgan and I'll help you find your brother. And then there's just like this whole sort of like hero's journey that they go on.
Is that a hero's journey where she's basically selling out Morgan,
or is
who she's known for, a while, at least in the apocalypse, just to in order for this guy to hunt down Wendell? I don't know. It seems a little bit.
I don't think that. I think it's pretty clear she's not going to sell out Morgan, that she's going to figure out a way to like stop this guy, but she does want to find her brother. So there's this other thing. And then even, okay. And then we kind of figure out or find out a little bit about this group that's just kind of gathering up walkers and releasing them. And it's still unclear why and why this makes sense. I don't know. Like this was just a very odd thing. And even their little hero's journey is quite implausible. Like Rufus smells this cap that was Wendell's, but like, how old is that cap? Like, I do know that like scent hounds have to have probably like it can get muddy for them, right? Like they can smell something. Maybe I guess the cap would have something, but I don't know. It felt like it had been a while. But they kind of go on this journey. They have some adventures. They find this random dude that has, Wendell's wheelchair. There just seems like a lot of pieces that are just kind of thrown together and don't, again, kind of sloppy storytelling. So we've got Sarah just in this like position where she's worried her brother is dead. And I mean, if you're this guy and she's looking for your brother, are you going to make the comment that he makes that her brother's probably like crawling around somewhere, right? I don't know. When you're under the control of these two people. And then
I didn't love that they had Sarah being kind of all going from 0 to 60 so quickly in this
all
episode.
the time.
Like when she drives away in Josiah's car and he gets in and then he's just kind of like giving her breathing advice, which is probably this is why the episode is named this, because he does it again later. And then she crashes his car with Rufus in the back seat. I think this is the second car crash that Rufus has been in on this show and survives.
Yep.
Which is great for Rufus until later. Suddenly I feel like it was at the barn that suddenly Josiah is much softer and less scary. And that just continues. He does have like a half-hearted axe fight with Morgan later when Morgan shows up out of nowhere, like just pops up the way Morgan does to rescue them. Mm-hmm. But like by the time that fight ends, because Rufus gets bitten by Emile's head, not Emile. Yeah, Emile.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh God, what have I done? And I was just really confused here. Have they ever proven that zombie bites kill animals?
I don't know, but I also, Rufus having survived all of this and having been around walkers, I don't think he would have done this. So that bothered me more than anything else. Like they have never really gone into that. They do show that zombies will eat animals.
Yes. We've seen lots of horses and other things get eaten.
But agree with you. I was thinking the same thing. I don't know that they have ever really done that. I guess in this case they did that.
That's been done now.
I guess it's been done. But you have this whole thing, and even I guess like one of the parts of this story that really bothers me is that Josiah is talking about all the things that have gone on, all the ways that people have changed, who he and his brother were before this. And clearly he's going to be upset that his brother is dead. But I think he also knows that his brother was a bounty hunter. And it's not like Morgan killed him in cold blood. He killed him because he was trying to bring him in. And
to me, it's just weird that like twin brothers wouldn't have been together during the apocalypse.
Right. Like what happened here? And it sounds like they did have maybe a falling out in how they were sort of dealing with all of this. And so I guess I don't necessarily believe that Josiah is going to be going on some kind of a vengeance tour. to avenge his brother's death when he understands that his brother kind of was a different person. And he even says this, but too late for poor Rufus, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was just again a lot of things kind of like to me crammed in. And even into I mean, they cram in a lot here. They cram in the fact like all of this information about and sort of his I guess redemption or his realization that he causes Rufus's death. Sorry, spoiler. They have to kill the dog, which is really sad. And then Morgan gets into this whole thing, and they discover that there's this warhead, and they kind of leave it an unexploded warhead.
Well, they can't really touch it.
They can't do anything about it, which I get, but they just bring that into it.
Of course, somebody just clearly touches it before the end of this episode.
Right.
Like, how is that guy alive? Very funny.
Right.
Yeah, when they go to Strand's tower again, everybody wants to go to Strand's tower. Finally, another outside set, which I anytime they have an outside set that's not on a stage, I like it. Even though this one was what happens here is kind of silly. There's this sign that says like take a step toward your future. I don't know what it says, something like that. And then you pick up a phone and then Howard pops up behind you.
Yeah,
because
I know,
Howard
right?
the historian is just
now like this heavy, right? Like
he's
it's
just
so
this
weird.
little guard guy. He's wearing his like knee pads and he's got his little H&K 40 little submachine gun. And he's like, what are you doing here? And then Strand pops up too, because Strand in his little stupid uniform is hanging out.
He loves that uniform.
He's just like, none of you guys are coming in, but Wendell's here and he's thriving and he's doing great. And I don't really, I mean, I get it. Like the point of this is so Strand can say, I've got all this stuff and you guys don't. And that's great for me and bad for you. And he's like, and Morgan, you can't go with Morgan. He's barely got anything. And Howard's like, yeah, that's true. I was there. I saw how bad it is. Of course, we all know that Morgan just found like, I don't know, a year's supply of canned food in his submarine. So maybe,
yeah, and I mean, he's not going to talk about that.
He wouldn't, but he says later after they've left, and maybe
we're struggling. We're struggling.
Like, oh yeah, we're scraping by. It's been. I'm not going to lie to you. So Sarah does go with him, I think, and he's gonna go get. He talks about going to get everybody else in the cast who was in that one scene. And they're all going to go live in the submarine. I don't know. Like they were in the safe zone. Maybe they should all go to Fort San Vicente, the Airbnb full of muskets that they were staying at.
Yeah, I don't know.
And Josiah, of course, is like, I'm going to go on a hero's quest. I don't know where I'm going or what I'm going to do, but I have to leave.
And I was like, oh, I guess your cameo on this show has been your guest star.
Maybe
yes,
he'll stay though.
They only had you for this one or these like the end of that last episode and this episode, so I guess you got to go.
No, he's not. Well, he might come back. Sarah gives him a jar of magic pills that apparently are perfect for fight. I mean, Al calls them Prussian blues.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe that's a thing. I don't know. I didn't bother to look it up, but it's like you guys were next to a leaking warhead. You know that there's a lot of bad radiation, but you're going to give him this jar of pills and you'll be fine. So I don't know if that means that he's going to say, now I can stay with you because I'm not going to be a radioactive mess or what. But yeah, so Josiah might be leaving. I mean, if I was Demetrius Gross, I would leave too. And then the final scene of the episode is that the scrappers have the unexploded warhead and they put it in a cart. Somehow they picked it up. And this is the thing we've been looking for. It's going to change everything. I'm like, great. Another nuclear threat. This is exactly what we need.
Yep. More seemingly either like sort of damaged people, or like again, they like to change the rules a lot about radiation. So I guess we'll have to see what happens here.
These guys are wearing their suits, but they're all very homemade looking. This is not like an official mop gear or NBC suit or anything. These are just dudes in like rags with like, it looks like a welding helmet or maybe like a deep diving scuba helmet or something. And they all have different stuff. And I forget their name. Are they the Scrappers? Is that what they're called?
I guess so.
That's what Will was calling them, right? before he died. Anyway, yeah, these two episodes I think were the first episode was okay. The second one was weak sauce, in part because of all the emotional topsy-turviness I feel like that Sarah was bringing to it, that Josiah kind of flips from evil to extremely sympathetic, and Morgan just popping up conveniently and Strand popping up in both of these episodes. And I find it frustrating. And so, yeah, these episodes were tough for me.
Same, hence my comment that I think we should probably try to speed things along a little bit and then revisit it when the next half comes out. So anyway, I think that's about all I have to say about it, but I'm very curious to hear what our listeners think. Maybe they've already given up, who knows? But if you have any comments about these episodes, please send us an email, reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com, reanimatedpcast on the Twitters, or reanimatedpodcast.com. Just leave a note on our site. And looking forward to speeding through the rest of this with you, Stuart.
Yeah, we'll speed through it faster from here on out and get to something else that we want to do.
Indeed. So until next time, ciao.
Alrighty, bye.